So the pie is getting smaller and smaller, and I think if we allow the opportunities and unilateral action to take us closer, to bypass an opportunity with the Palestinians, the Arab Palestinians, and move towards the neighbors and only the neighbors, then I think we are setting ourselves for more failures. Madam Ambassador, on the points that you have raised in your closing remarks, I cannot but I agree, because I think, and I restrict my comments only to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as I have not been able to or afford the time to examine all the other agreements like you have, because I'm engaged in a daily practice of law. I solve other people's problems as opposed to focusing on this issue these days. I think the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, of course, all of us know, is part of the global conflicts that reign around us and are becoming increasingly prevalent in the Arab world, and we cannot but be part of that entire conflict. And also, as the world order today, rule of law, the international value system, the international norms are all shifting and changing before our own eyes. So we, the Palestinians and the Israelis, are also struggling to find our own place within this global conflict and the global changes. Closer to the theme of the session, I think back in the 1980s, late 80s, early 90s, when we opted for a conflict resolution as opposed to a continued state of resolution, we entered the negotiations in good faith. We entered the negotiations with the aim to build trust and confidence. And we created a balance at that time between our minds and our hearts. We created a balance between what our interests are and what our emotions are dictating. And therefore, that led us to sign peace agreements, interim as they may have been, but we started the process. Unfortunately, as we started getting more into the details, determining that the price on the emotional, on the historical, on the political, and on the economic level were too heavy to pay, we started having our hearts take over our brains. And we allowed the right on both sides to take hold and divert the prospect from a two-state solution to a continued managed state of conflict and to unilateral action. And I think this is where we have missed the opportunity, both of us, of course, on both sides. I think going forward, we can and we should regain the balance. I think having established that we can, at some point in history, use our minds to address the conflict in an objective way, notwithstanding all the emotional, subjective aspects of it, is still an opportunity. How we figure within the global order, within the regional order and the new order, and without having an independent third-party broker that would also help us solve the crises as they emerge during negotiations, is going to be very important. But I think I would say we, the Palestinians, are close to Israel here. We are closer than our Arab neighbors, and I think it is important to maintain that we are the primary partner for Israel, not the Arab neighbors. The Arab neighbors are going to be of added value for normalization, but if we, the Palestinians, find ourselves more and more sidelined, especially as the as the pie, the land, so to speak, is getting smaller and smaller, I like to offer an anecdote here. As I was driving with my friend Akram from Jerusalem, we were saying, it's like, you know, we the Palestinians started with 10 shekels. That was like sort of the exchange for peace, the value, the monetary value in exchange for peace. Today we owe Israel 10 shekels. So the pie is getting smaller and smaller, and I think if we allow the opportunities to and unilateral action to take us closer, to bypass an opportunity with the Palestinians, the Arab Palestinians, and move towards the neighbors and only the neighbors, then I think we are setting ourselves for more failures. So to emphasize your points, I think it's negotiations, it's compromise, and we have to establish the opportunity again for a long-term peace between ourselves and the conflict. We both are here to stay. We have a joint history, we have a joint destiny, and we have a joint tradition to a large extent, of course. So I think it is very important for both of us to look again at ourselves, not at other parties, pay the emotional price, the economic price, the political price, and pave the way to a joint negotiation. Thank you. I think, I mean, it's one thing to be transparent, it's another thing to negotiate in secret. And I think it's up to the negotiators to agree on what information they will share and at what time. So timing, the nature of the information, and the level of detail. I think everybody in Israel and in Palestine, if we were to take our conflict, of course, pretty much knows the issues and understands that we're negotiating over Jerusalem, and of course the holy sites, and over the four issues, I mean the borders, the refugees, and security. So I still believe, notwithstanding technology, notwithstanding the right of people also to access information and to know what's going on, I think that at some point in time, the negotiators have to decide when and what do they share. So I believe in some level of secrecy, but not in terms of the fact that they're negotiating. Thank you. I think on education, I agree. It's very important to have education on both sides. I think. I mean, I live in Jerusalem, and I go to the West Bank, Ramallah daily, and I go to Hebron, and I go to Nablus, to the courts. I can tell you there's incitement across the board on both sides. There's also a systematic policy approach to rendering each side, on the one hand, a victim, on the other hand, an aggressor. So I think I agree that starting early on in the schools, starting early on in the schools would be very important. On the U.S. role, sure, the U.S. still has a role to play. I think we all recognize that, and we recognize the role of other states, both regionally and internationally. However, it would have to be an honest, fair engagement. We the Palestinians cannot continue to be treated unequally and to be treated as a lesser partner in the peace, in a potential peace agreement, in a negotiation with a broker. I think to some extent the U.S., especially with this administration or this president, has rendered itself less credible, less credible in brokering a peace agreement and in a negotiated settlement. And if they wish to regain the broker role, I think credibility will be very important, and they would have to establish it.